In this video, you're going to learn how to make this animation. Very exciting, I know. So let's go to a new Scratch project, make sure your sprite is selected, go to Events, and drag in a When Green Flag is Clicked node. So if we go over here, we see that our sprite is gliding to the left and then gliding to the right. And you might think that I used a glide block for this, in which case you would be right. That's exactly what I used. So let's go to Motion and drag in a new glide block. So first we want our sprite to move to the left, so let's move it to the left. We see it's around -170, so let's put -170 here. And then we want our sprite to go to the right. So it's again around 170. So let's drag in a new glide block, make it 170, and just change this to 0. So if we run this, we see that this is doing what we want, right? It's gliding to the left and then it's gliding to the right. However, if we go back over here, we see that our sprite isn't just gliding to the left and then gliding to the right and then stopping. It's repeating, right? It's doing this multiple times. So how do we do that in our project here? Well, your first idea might just be to add more glide blocks, right? So we can add in 2 more glide blocks, change this one to -170, and now if we run it, the sprite will go back and forth twice, right? And if we wanted to do it 3 times, we would just add another 2 glide blocks, change this to 170 or -170, and now it's going back and forth 3 times. And this method of just adding more glide blocks, it works for now, but what if we wanted our sprite to go back and forth 10 times, or 100 times, or even 1,000 times? Then we don't want to be dragging hundreds of different glide blocks, right? So a better way to do this is just to have Scratch do the work for us. So how do we do that? Well, first I'm going to get rid of these glide blocks, so we just have our 2 original glide blocks, and then I'm going to go over here to Control and drag in a repeat block. And repeat blocks, they're super useful. Basically, what a repeat block does is it repeats the code that's inside of it a certain number of times. So right now it's set to 10 times, which is fine for our purposes. So let's take the code that we want to repeat, which is these 2 glide blocks, and put it inside of the repeat block. Drag the repeat block up here, and now when we run it, now the program is doing exactly what we want it to do, right? So basically, what is this repeat block doing? Well, this repeat block is what's called a loop in programming. So what it's doing is it's going through the code inside of it. So first it's making the sprite glide to the left, and then it's making it glide to the right. And then when it gets to the end of the repeat block, there's this little arrow up here that tells it to loop back to the beginning. So it loops back to the beginning, and then it repeats the code, and it loops back, repeats, and it does this a total of 10 times, right? Although we can change this to whatever we want. So if you wanted the sprite to go back and forth 20 times, just put 20 in here, and now when you run it, it will go back and forth 20 times. So that's what this video is about. It's about using loops to make your life easier. So instead of dragging in an absurd amount of glide blocks, we can just use 2 glide blocks and 1 repeat block, and we can set this to repeat however many times we want. So that's basically the end of the video. Just to finish off, if we look back over here, you can see that the animation it's still going, right? So, and this video has been going on for a while. So you might wonder how I did that. So if we go back over here, you might think that I just took this number and I put in an absurd amount, like 10 million or whatever that is, and I just ran it and it would just run for the entire video, and that's one way to do it. But if your goal is just to have it repeat indefinitely until the program ends, then there's a block for that. So if we just stop this real quick, go to Control, and right under the repeat block is the forever block. So if we drag this in, the forever block, it looks a lot like the repeat block because it does basically the same thing. It's also a loop. So if we put our code into the forever block, Basically, what this block is going to do is it's going to loop through the code, as you can see from this arrow here, but instead of doing it a set number of times, like this repeat block, it's going to do it forever. It's going to loop forever until the program ends. So if we get rid of this and connect the forever block to the green flag and we run the program, now this program will run forever, or this block will run forever until the program ends. So if we stop this, then it will stop. And if we go over here, that's exactly how I did this. So if I minimize this, you can see this is my code. I just have a forever block with my 2 glide blocks inside of it. So I hope this video was helpful and inspires you to go make some cool stuff with loops.